Hello again, everyone. Welcome to 90s to Now. I am, as always, Jerry Strauss, and you are, as always, here and ready, prepared for another awesome episodes of the show. And we're guaranteed that this week because one of our favorite guests is back, and we can't wait to catch up and talk to her, Christine Lakin. It's so weird. We can talk to you. We can talk about your past, your present, your future. The strike is over, and we're back.
Yay! Thank God. Oh my God. It felt like 100 years.
It really
It
did,
wasn't, but it felt like that. Yeah.
it was an especially awkward time in an already awkward show with an already awkward host, and it was that much more difficult for us to navigate these conversations. So I'm glad we can talk about things. And last time we spoke to you, you were on the show with your friend, our friend, everyone's friend, Jodie Sweetin, and we had just an amazing conversation. You guys broke down for all of us non-industry people, everything that was going on with the strike, and from the writers' end, from the performers end, and real world stuff that I think a lot of us just didn't really understand from the outside. And now that we're on the other side of it, it's exciting to talk to you again because I want to know how you're feeling now on the end of, being a part of this movement that has gotten to a resolution. And, the discussions continue about what that resolution means and, what it could mean, for the next few years until things have to be discussed and, perhaps negotiated again. Where exactly, from your perspective, did everything land? Are we in a good place?
I think so. I mean, with every negotiation, I think you're always up against not everybody getting everything they want.
Right.
And, there things in this ratification of this new agreement that I think not everybody is going to be super stoked about. Yes, of course. But were there major advancements made that had to be made for the livelihoods of these actors and performers? Yes, major. I mean, there were so many new policies put in place for AI that never existed before. And let me be clear, for people who play bit parts and for people who are background actors, I feel like without these kinds of protections, those jobs could have gone away almost completely.
Mm.
Um, there are so many more things in place in terms of one's likeness and usage and compensation for what that is. Look, I look at things on both sides because I've been an actor for many years. I'm still an actor. I'm also a director. And when I think about doing a reshoot, let's say on a TV show,
Yeah.
let's say you realize that something was wrong, that there was a rewrite, that the network didn't like something, you have to go back in and reshoot something. Maybe you need an actor for like one shot. Maybe it's just one shot and that's it.
Mm.
And this actor is no longer available, out of the country, working on something else. Is there a way that we could recreate this actor for that one shot and pay them and use them and notify them and be able to move on with the rest of our reshoot in a timely manner? Yeah. And we should be able to do that with everybody's permission. The idea that technology is going to eradicate all of our jobs doesn't have to be the course of action that we take. We can use it responsibly and we can use it to benefit us in situations like that. But there were other things. I think not everybody was completely happy with the residual model that came out of this. I think that's one of the sticking points. And I agree. I wish it were better. But I think we are also just at the precipice of fighting that battle in a model with streaming that we've never fought that battle before. And so I think that's just something we're going to have to keep fighting for as the model keeps changing. Who knows in 3 years when we renegotiate this contract, what
Yeah.
streamers are still even around? Like,
Yeah.
is linear television still a thing? This continues to evolve at such a rapid pace. So I think we have to take what we have and the concessions and the plans that that everybody fought so long and hard for, and then continue to build and move forward from there. But, there were a lot of things that I think people don't realize. There were certain loopholes that were being taken advantage of, and I'll be specific about it. So hopefully it can be educational. But I was talking with a friend yesterday who does a lot of stand-in work and has for many, many years. And he said, that's a pretty great job to be a stand-in. I've worked with so many stand-ins. They are vital to what we do. And if you don't know what a stand-in does, generally, if you are a series regular on a show, you have someone who is your stand-in. They have a certain sense of skin tone, hair color that is somewhat like you. Sometimes there's one stand-in for two different people, and that person might put on a wig or might, but they are somewhat your same height. It's so that after the actors come in and rehearse their scene and they go off to finish hair and makeup or learn their lines or do whatever they have to do, the camera actually, we have to meet the director, the DP, the crew. I have to tell the crew my vision for how this is going to go. I've now worked with the actors. We're comfortable, but this is what I want the shot to be. And we're going to dolly in on this line, or we're going to pivot and, move over here for this thing, or this is just the first general shot. And then we're moving in for coverage. We need the time as a crew to set the cameras, set the lighting, and work with the stand-ins, the doubles, just to get focus marks, so that everybody understands we need to rehearse for ourselves before we bring the actors in to do the rest of their work. So stand-ins are vital to that process in television and in film. And many shows, especially 3-camera shows, were using stand-ins throughout the week for guest stars rather than hiring a guest star for the entire week. If you come onto a show, you're not a series regular, you come onto a show to do a job, normally you're hired for the week so that you can rehearse that job. You can be there all week and then shoot the show on a certain day. Mm-hmm. And many of these actors were not being hired until the last day. So they were having a stand-in do their work for them for 4 days at the base rate of what normally they're just there to do their job. They're not there to do the actor's job for them. So a stand-in wasn't being compensated, and the actor wasn't being compensated, nor were they being given any time to learn or rehearse their lines, learn their movement. They were told as when they came in, you stand here, you say this, go. That is not our job. Right. So there were a lot of, I think, abuses being taken. Because they could, and now a lot of those things have been put in place. If it's a guest star, you have to hire the guest star for the entire week. If that person is unavailable for some reason, and a stand-in does that person's job, the stand-in gets a different rate. I mean, these are just things that are now finally put in place. So, anyway, these are just some examples of what I think the gains were, and finally, I think we can all be excited to get back to work, because I know there are people, as I said this in the last interview, there are a lot of businesses that were affected by these strikes that are not unionized in the same way and are waiting around to continue what they do. Dry cleaners and caterers and our hair and makeup and our IATSE neighbors and friends. So I think we can all say that we're happy to get back. Yeah.
And even on a larger scale, I remember talking with you guys about how the results of this situation could affect different industries and strikes that could potentially happen. And, those that have unions and such, where that could be, where there could be similar or parallel situations. And it sounds like a lot of what you guys did was kind of iron out a lot of the shortcuts with a fine-tooth comb. And, in different ways, I think those things probably do exist in all industries. And, so it's kind of this really broad, cool win for those who are affected by these tiny little things that can mean a whole lot to the individual. I'm curious how, you on the front lines, and kind of living through this, and just like everybody else being kind of stuck in limbo, not really being able to work necessarily in the way that you'd want to, being prohibited from doing so many different things. Did you feel like there was like an evolving pressure or a desire from the industry to, let's just get this done? Like, let's just lower, I don't know if lower our standards is the right terminology, but did you feel like there was a challenge to kind of staying the course as time went on and as things extended, and then we hear about meetings, and then people are walking away from meetings, and we thought this was a done deal, and now maybe we're actually still far apart on this thing. Is there just this overwhelming sense of we've got to keep these troops kind of aligned and uh, focused in the same direction, and so people aren't jumping ship, so to speak, even
Certainly.
emotionally? Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think the longer, of course, we had two different unions, that were striking for somewhat similar, somewhat different reasons. But as the Writers Guild was able to come to a resolution, and I think get a contract that they were fairly happy with, it then did sort of hinge and rest on the Screen Actors Guild to make their deal so that everybody could get back to this production side. People could then start writing and start going into pre-production, but as you know, nothing could really happen until the actors were back as well. And yeah, I think there was a little bit of, once people walked away from the table, I got the feeling that there was some misinformation being scattered about why the Writers Guild finally made a deal and what those negotiations really had to do. And there was some rumors going around that it was the membership that pressured the union to say, just make the deal. We all want to go back. And actually, I think that was untrue. And I think that was information that was being, I can't say for certain, but I think there were some people maybe from, the other side of the table that were trying to spread this misinformation in order to divide many members of the Screen Actors Guild and maybe put pressure on our negotiating committee and our president and vice president to just make the deal, This is what the union membership wants. This is what, the WGA did. And I think there were some memos and letters going around within our union. And I think a lot of people had to help shut that down and say, this is divisive. This is not true. And we have to send a letter now to our union representatives to say, we don't want this. We want you to stay the course. We want a fair deal, and we're in it to win it. Like, do not back down unless you are getting what you feel is the fairest deal that we can get. So I think all the time there are people that try to union bust. I think there are people on both sides, on the other side of the table. There are people who maybe those things came from third parties. I really don't know where those rumors started. But I think the beauty of now social media is that in those tough moments when the talks broke down and when the AMPTP walked away from the table, we did see a lot of people, of course, big names, big voices, going out, supporting strikes on the picket lines, talking to the press, expressing their support. My feed was just riddled with everybody, supporting the SAG strike, being out there personally, reposting our support for them. So I think that's where you really do see that it does matter. Like that kind of support matters. And I think it is, and it can become a very big rallying cry to, continue to stay the course, especially in those really tenuous moments.
Gotcha.
So I don't know, to your question, I think there was some pressure there, but I think ultimately, the union prevailed in staying the course and I think getting a much better deal.
Yeah. And, you think about the resolution, and obviously in a situation like this, the ultimate goal is compromise, everyone walking away being happy. We're all best friends. We're all going to have Thanksgiving. We're all going to have the holidays together. But, as you said, there was at least the feeling that maybe got a little ugly here and there during this whole thing. Is it easy to kind of go back? Because now everyone's kind of working together, everyone's in bed together to kind of push forward and make some art, right? Make some magic. Is there a feeling of lingering any sort of negativity that comes out of this, because now, you guys aren't going to negotiate again for, as you said, a few years, but have things changed because of what has happened as far as just sort of that dynamic between the studios and, being both a performer and being a director? And I mean, just from your perspective, how do you feel about them?
You know, it's so funny. You can be embroiled in, like, I think what is the most heated battle of your career, and you can feel so strident about, like, we have to make this work, we have to do this. And then the moment it ends, everybody is sort of like, yay, party, back to work. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think that there's anyone, like, I have several friends who are executives, and they're creative executives, and even on the writer side, both of them were sort of like, listen, like, we're executives, but like, we're not making the rules here. Like, we're not the heads of studios. Like, we can't do our jobs either. And I would love to work with these writers, but I also don't make every decision. Like, I think once that strike ended, this synergy was like right back to where it was. And I think the same holds true. I don't think there's any actor that's walking onto a set, eyeing a producer and being like, you're the one that was holding me back. I think people cut corners when they can cut corners because it was allowed. And
Yeah.
you can't be like, I get it. It's a business. And there were people who were trying to make their budget work. There were people that were trying to save money in any way they could. And I think it got out of control. I don't begrudge people trying to do the best that they could do in their job. But when it comes down to people's livelihoods, there have to be precedents in place for how we do this. And that's why we have unions. That's why we have artistic unions, so that we can protect their members. And there are things that are okay, and there are things that are not okay. And it's very clear. So I think once those things are put in place, people just have to play by the rules, because there's just no other way. I mean, yeah. So I don't think. I mean, I certainly have no animosity. I'm not sitting around like waiting to really stick it to someone. I think everybody is genuinely happy it's over, and I think we're all genuinely happy to get back to work and to play ball.
Yeah, we're definitely happy here at 90s to Now, because the floodgates are open again, for great guests like you to come on and talk about all the things
Yeah.
that we know and love you for. Um, I want to mention, and it was such a strange time during the strike, uh, especially for things that were so impactful to happen. And unfortunately, we had some pretty sad things happening during that time. One of which was, unfortunately, the loss of really one of the greatest TV stars of all time, and somebody that, of course, you worked with for so long and knew very well. We remember her as your mom on Step by Step, as Suzanne Somers. Sadly, we lost at a time when we weren't even allowed to properly have a conversation about her career accomplishments. But it seems so appropriate to talk to her now after this journey that was this strike, because in addition to everything that she did as a performer, she was so notable for kind of fighting for her own rights, and everything that she did as far as becoming and making herself such a big star as part of Three's Company, and then uh, having to sort of I don't know if walk away from it is the proper way to say it, but just being very vocal about her desire to be treated equal and fairly, just like many of the issues that we've talked about with this strike. But for her, I mean, for you, she was your TV mom. And I'd imagine a TV hero as well. Is she somebody that was on your radar prior to Step by Step?
Oh, yes. I was a TV junkie as a kid. And, it was a different time. It wasn't like you could watch whatever you wanted to watch when you turned your television on. You had like 9 channels.
Right.
So, and then there was cable. The advent of Nick at Night and cable was like the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because it was all sitcom.
Mm,
And all I wanted to do was watch sitcoms. So at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I would flip around until I found something that looked mildly interesting. And many times that was a lot of shows from the 70s and 80s. So I watched a lot of Three's Company. I definitely knew who Suzanne Somers was. Patrick Duffy, not so much, because I wasn't a Dallas fan at 12 years old.
Right.
but but my parents and my mom's friends and all of them, they of course knew. But yeah,
Let me ask you this. Did you, because there's two phases of Three's Company for me in my life, and we're
yeah,
generally, I believe, in the same age group. There was me watching it as a kid and just, laughing at how funny Suzanne was and laughing at, Jack falling over couches and such. And then years later, going back and understanding the actual comedy on an
yeah.
entirely different level. Was it the same for you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, as a kid, you're just like watching like the sort of antics of it all, not really understanding the dynamics of what the premise of the show was really about.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think it was like the same. I mean, I also watched Bosom Buddies, and I don't think I really ever understood what that show was about, but I thought it was hilarious. So yeah,
That was my entire childhood, I feel, is watching sitcoms and being like, why is everyone so upset that A and B are living together? Like, what's
yeah,
the big
yeah,
deal? And
exactly.
yeah, but I mean, breakout star of the
Yeah.
show in a show that was full of amazing comedic performances and star power, and just at such a young age, she was just such a shining like explosion off of our TV
She
screens.
was. Yeah. And I think that was, it was really interesting, the timing of everything. And obviously it was, a very shocking and a very sad moment to hear that news. I think for all of us, Suzanne was a survivor in such the truest sense of that word. Had she talked about this in her books. She had survived trauma in her childhood, with an alcoholic family member. She went on to speak about that. She was an advocate for adult children of alcoholics. She was a single mother. She, wanted to be an actress, found her way in, became very famous, asked for equal pay as a female, wanting as much as her male co-star on that show,
Mm.
and was fired for asking for equal pay. Not just, no, we're not going to give it to you, was, do not ask, you will be fired. And she
Mm.
was. And it wasn't even just like, and as we talk about, equality, we still as women fight for equal pay in this industry. And it's become a very big topic over the last 5, 6, 7 years. We're still fighting for that. But not only that, it wasn't a fight that was popular. It wasn't popular to say I deserve as much as the opposite gender. It was, how dare you ask? And then her name was smeared in the press as being this greedy, stupid, bimbo, dumb blonde. Like, they went after her
Mm.
as her character, not even as the business person she was. And I remember her saying it was so hard for her to even get hired. People had labeled her difficult and hard to work with. And, she really had to reinvent herself again and again and again. And she proved to everyone that she could. And it's that kind of tenacity in this business that I just admire so much. And the idea that you have to keep doing that over and over and over in your career, proving and reproving and, reinventing. I mean, she was so successful, not only with Step by Step and just reinventing her acting career in that way, but also as really the first person sort of in that genre who was taking her name and branding it. She
Mm.
was in this, with the Thigh Master, and people gave her so much crap about it. But honestly, it was the most successful business move of her career.
It was
And she
huge.
showed everyone. I mean, she became this health and wellness guru with, the different products, with her cookbooks, with her books, with her speaking, with, Home Shopping Network. This was before Kim Kardashian did it. This was
Yeah.
before Jessica Simpson did it. This was really the advent of that kind of different, branding commerce. And she was brilliant at it. And the other part about all of that, at the
Mm.
end of all of that, she was still one of the nicest people I ever worked with. She could have been bitter, I guess. And she could have been, I mean, she had been through a lot, and she could have been really bitter maybe about the industry. I never, ever got the sense in all the years I worked with her that she was anything other than just grateful to be there and having a great time. Difficult was the last word I would have used to describe her.
Yeah. And
Um, yeah, she was a real, I mean, inspiration to me as a young woman.
yeah,
Um, and I'm just so grateful I had the time I did with her.
it's funny how you can watch a TV show and kind of get a feeling for whether that cast is having fun and enjoying working with each other. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the one of the secret sauce components of Step by Step is that it really felt like you felt like a family. Like you felt like not like a family that was artificial, but a family that, probably could have spats and arguments and things of that nature, but in the end you guys felt like kids, and she and Patrick Duffy truly felt like your parents. They felt like they had a lot of fun working together, but they also felt like they had a lot of fun working with you. Was it fun kind of being in the dynamic of being a pseudo daughter to her as a pseudo mom?
Oh my God. It was the best. I mean, I say, I laugh all the time that like I peaked with that job because it was the most idyllic, incredible experience. It really was. Patrick and Suzanne set the tone from the beginning, and they truly clicked from like the moment they met. They were the best of friends. He made her laugh, and she could be silly around him. They just genuinely enjoyed each other. And that was apparent, I think, from the way that they interacted with each other. And not only that, but it set a tone on stage of like having fun and being respectful and being hardworking. And it could have been a real nightmare. You had like 6 children who became adolescents and teenagers. It could have
Mm.
been like a hormone driven like total nightmare on that set, and it
Mhm.
wasn't. We genuinely all got along pretty well, but we also like teased each other and ribbed each other and had inside jokes and had like our own relationships with each other. I was in a schoolroom with half of those people for like most of my childhood. Imagine that. It's like Little House on the Prairie, but like, crazy. A bunch of child actors like thrown into like one trailer with like 3 different rooms. We were all trying to do school. I mean, those are so many of my memories because I was in school. I felt like my whole life
Yeah.
just trying to, get my work done in between my job. But it was idyllic. It was really fun. There were like, there were parties, and there were secret Santas, and there were pranks, and I think, my fondest memories of Suzanne was um, just how like generous she was. Her generosity of spirit, like when she would really turn and talk to you, when she would ask you questions about your life, when she would ask you about your fashion, when she would talk to you about, what she made her family over the weekend, like that was her. And I've had friends, people, associates say, I didn't know her that well, but I shot at her house once. We shot something for her cookbook, and she made the entire crew like a Thanksgiving meal, like by herself. She didn't bring in a chef, like she just did it. And I said, yeah, that makes complete sense to me. That's the Suzanne I know. She probably picked lemons off her tree out back and then made you like a lemon stuffed chicken. They were like, she did actually. So, that's that's all the person that I remember too. Yeah.
Yeah, an amazing human being, an amazing star, an amazing performer, and an amazing body of work. And luckily, we are able to continue to watch and enjoy and be reminded of everything that she was able to do in front of the camera, and then think and hear the stories about everything that she was behind the camera as well from people like you. So thank you for that. We also want to continue now that we're back in session here, so to speak. School's back in session. We want to keep watching what you're doing as well. So everything's going, everything is back in effect, so to speak, in Hollywood. What is on the near future and far future agenda for you these days?
Well, things are starting to ramp up, which is awesome. I hope more directing. As shows start to get their rooms going and finally get their production schedules going. We're just starting to take meetings to figure out when all of that's happening. I think given the timing of everything, as you know, in Hollywood, if there's a holiday coming up, everything shuts down. So God forbid we do anything before Christmas. But production schedules are starting to ramp. So I think we'll be starting to see a lot of movement, come January, even early February, as everyone gets that going. So, but yeah, auditions are slowly starting to roll back in, which is great. And, some audiobook stuff coming out, which is going to be really fun. I have a big book coming out next year. And then I've been basically using my time in between being on the picket lines and striking and being with my kids to just revamp all of my stuff, take stock of everything I've done in the last 5 years. And I have a new website, and I have a new directing reel, and I have a choreography reel, and I have an acting thing. So lots of new content at christinelakin.co. So you can check all of that out too, and just keep in touch with everything I've got going on.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for bringing us the news. You're like an entire news report. You give us all we need is a bit of a. Do we have any sports updates going on from your neck of the woods?
I wish. The Vikings are losing. The Vikings lost, so that's my only update. My husband was yelling downstairs last week, and I thought this isn't going well. So the purple tree we put up did not work. That's my that's my sports report for you.
So there's a Taylor Swift watch. Let's make sure she's okay.
Yep, right.
But otherwise very complete. We are now all up to date on all things in life, as always, thanks to you, Christine.
Oh, thank you so much, Jerry.
Yeah, no, so it's great to talk to you again. I'm sure we'll find a reason to beg you to come back to the show again in the near future. But
always my pleasure.
Yeah. Till then, thank you guys for checking us out here on 90s to Now, and do all the things that you do. You share us, you like us, you pass it on, keep us growing. And until then, we will see you next time. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.